Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I am your host as always, Seth. Today I am here with a good buddy of mine, one of the co-founders of Zero Eyes, which is an AI gun detection service. I think is what we would call it. Software as a service that helps to combat the mass shooting epidemic that's happening in America. It's Sam Alaimo. He is a CRO of the company, and we've known each other for, I think, pre-pandemic. I think it was right before the pandemic.
Right.
Then we all evacuated into our homes, and then I remember you got COVID pretty quickly. I think you went big and went home. You know.
That's right. Yeah, mid 2020.
Yeah, you got I think the alpha strain. I remember that, and you were on the calls, you were coughing, and that was a little rough. So
Barricaded in the closet for about 2 weeks. There, it was good.
Exactly. Everyone's saying, "Get upstairs, stay in there. Don't move." Exactly. So. Which I know is. So you are a former Navy SEAL, right? Is that the correct term? Former.
Correct.
Does it retire? I think retired. You have to be in it for 20 years or something like that to get the retired insigniation.
Yeah, there's 20-year retirement. There's medical retirement. There's several different forms of retirement. But if you got out before that 20-year period, you're a former Navy SEAL.
Former Navy SEAL. Thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
And you got your MBA from Columbia.
Correct.
So they knock you around too much in the Navy SEALs because you still made it into Columbia. So that's a good thing.
That's right.
And then you got out and you founded Zero Eyes with the other guys. And so what have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? I mean, because you're a SEAL, you kind of have to be a team player. You have to be a team player if you want to survive. But isn't there some kind of entrepreneurship kind of in there, like kind of business savvy you have to have when you're a SEAL?
I think the soft skills are there. The hard skills definitely are not, hence the business school, hence the experience. But the soft skills, the FITFO, the getting in there with minimal information, unriddling it, figuring out what works, what doesn't through a process of trial and error, through iteration, through not being afraid to fail. Those are the soft skills that go into making, from what I've seen, SEALs become pretty excellent entrepreneurs.
Well, there you go. So so let's go back even farther. Why the SEALs? Like why not the traditional route of high school, college, grad school, get a job? Like why? Because and also congratulations on making it through the SEAL training, because that's not an easy. That alone is not an easy task. From what us civilians know about it. I'm sure you know more about how crazy it actually is, but still, what we see in documentaries is pretty intense.
It's very intense. Yeah, when I was a kid, that whole process you just enumerated, the high school, college, job, all that. It didn't strike me as appetizing when I was 14 or 15. The last thing I wanted to do was go to college. So from a young age, I latched onto the idea of becoming a SEAL. I wanted an overarching goal, something I could dedicate my mind to, my body to. And when I was about 15, that was the thing I set my sights on. So I started reading every day, running every day, training every day. And my life was built to make it through SEAL selection, which I enlisted when I was 19. I did try college for a short period. I quit almost immediately. And
you were a baby when you were a SEAL. Jeez.
I went in relatively young.
Yeah, because I know Mike, one of your co-founders, he was older when he was a SEAL, right? Wasn't he? He was he's going to listen to this and hate this, but he was like the grandpa of the group from what I hear. And he's not that old a guy. He's like my age, but compared to you were like the baby of the group, weren't you?
I was certainly young. I wasn't the youngest guy in the class, but I was on the lower end of the age spectrum. And typically, mentally, the guys aren't capable of making it through at high rates at that age. But physically, you're at an advantage. Like I could have done that 5 times in a row. I could have done Hell Week twice. But
mentally, your medulla is not fully formed yet until you're 25. So it's Right.
So I was definitely not fully formed.
We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. You're still a bit of a knucklehead, but sometimes that works out to your benefit because you're not. I guess I wouldn't say tainted. You're not there's no preconceived. You're going into it fresh, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I spent years preparing to go to it. So I would visualize what it would be like in Buds. I'd visualize the log, the PT, the boat on the heads, the cold water, the
Oh,
harassment. So by the time I'd got there, I'd already done it about 5,000 times in my head. I just had to go through it for real once I set foot there in Coronado.
and you made it. You made it through, and then you did a 4-year tour, right?
I was in for 6 years with a
6
couple
years.
tours to Afghanistan,
How many tours?
a couple.
Wow. Well, God bless you.
Hmm.
I mean, I could barely make it through journalism, let alone I would not be able to make it through the military. There's no way. I'm too loosey goosey. I'm sure they would change that in me, very easy. They changed that in you, but still, like you had a goal since you were 15, and you
If
set
you
your
went
mind.
in when you were 18, you might have been just fine. But I think the older you get, the more recalcitrant you get.
Exactly, exactly. So you got out of the SEALs. You went, then you went. Did you go right to Columbia, or did you have like did you have a stint in entrepreneurship then, or like what was it? What was it like going from a SEAL to MBA school? I guess you're kind of ready for MBA school because what are they going to throw at you if the SEAL guys didn't throw at you?
You'd be surprised. So I didn't have a bachelor's degree when I went in the Navy, so I finished it while I was in the
Oh,
military.
jeez.
Is a great program where they'll help cover your tuition cost if you do like nights and weekends. So I did an online program. University of Maryland was great. Navy helped me pay for it while I was in. Straight into the MBA program when I got back from my last deployment. So I went to Columbia University for my master's. uh, I was certainly the bottom of my class in the beginning.
Oh,
The
I'm sure.
rigorousness of that program, going from I had just done a 9 month deployment to Afghanistan. 2 months later, I'm in a classroom in Manhattan talking about macroeconomics. My brain was going to explode.
I guess
So
it's a different kind of rigor. I guess. I guess
a
it's
very different kind of rigor, and I was fortunate to have the group I did around me because they were very understanding. They certainly helped me out and get my brain up to speed when it comes down to the more academic challenge.
Yeah, because I mean, you're in Afghanistan. You're trying to survive. You're doing mission driven stuff, and I mean, you can apply that to business school, but it's a different. I'm not sure if it's right brain, left brain, or anything like that, but it's a different part of your brain.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
You're like remembering back. You're like, geez.
it was
So then you got
painful.
out, and I know you did something before Zero Eyes, right? You did something, didn't you? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, myself and Mike Leif, who's our now CEO of Zero Eyes, who I met in the SEAL teams in 2008, he and I founded a search fund after we graduated from our business school programs, which you raise a small amount of money from investors. They give you about a 2 year window using that money to find a company to buy. If they like that company, they'll give you the money to buy the company. In return for a share of the equity, you run it, and then at some point you sell it. And then they get back their return on investment. You get to be CEO. You get a little bit of equity, a little bit of cash. We didn't end up buying a company, so
Oh
we
no.
shut that search fund down. But it was a phenomenal experience.
Oh yeah.
We got
You
to
always
learn
be
the real
failing
world.
fast. There's something about failing fast or pivoting or all that stuff that you learn. I feel you learn more from that than you learn from. Like, I mean, you learn a lot from succeeding too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you're learning tons right now, but like failing and pivoting is a very important part and structure of being a founder and entrepreneur and all that stuff too.
100%. And that was exactly what it was. We learned how to do and definitely not do due diligence processes when it comes down to the valuation, the legal background of the company, what they exactly do, who their customer base is. We learned all that through trial and error, just through messing it up and then picking up the pieces and doing it again and again and again. So at the end of the 2 years, it was almost better than the MBA itself because it was real world experience.
Mm-hmm.
But we folded shop. So I went into private equity as an operating partner. I went down to the Carolinas to help run one of their companies down there, and that was an eye opener. I'd never actually been in the civilian world, like working at a company before or working on a company.
It's different.
It's very different. Like in the SEAL teams, you're as like a leader in the SEAL teams, you have these extremely motivated people who you just need to guide. You need to direct them, and they go
Mm-hmm.
so hard every now and then you have to pull back the reins, and that's about
Oh
it.
wow, that's not the
At this,
business world. That is
no, at
not
this
the
company, what
business.
I saw was I had to figure out how do you actually get someone to care, like to actually be there past 5 o'clock, to stay there till 5:30 if necessary.
God forbid,
I had to
right?
figure out
God
how to
forbid.
lead them, how to motivate them. That was extremely difficult, but also a really good education.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like journalism school was great for me. I loved it, but my professors always told me you're going to have your backside handed to you when you get into the newsroom. And oh my god, I mean, I know you have stories out the wazoo, but I had 6 years of journalism, and my stories are insane. Different kind of insane.
Yeah,
More civilian. More you'd be like, oh. hold my beer kind of thing. But still, I mean, but it's so true. Like real world, nothing beats real world experience in most
I
professions.
swear by it. Absolutely swear by it.
And so then you when did you start Zero Eyes? Was that like 2018
We
ish?
founded March 2018.
I remember the history here. It's good.
Right.
So and then the whole goal was to stop, put an end to school shootings and mass shootings as an epidemic in our country. And what I love about your company is that it's not facial recognition, it's gun recognition,
That's right.
which is really neat because it's like guns when you're at a camera is up on a pole somewhere and you're looking down, the head's bigger than the gun. Like it's a smarter target.
Yeah, 100%. When we founded the company, the question was raised to do exactly what you're saying. Should we do facial recognition on top of gun detection? Should we do license plate recognition? Should we do puddles for insurance claims? And if you do that, you end up being a B at everything and not an A plus at one thing. But then
Mm-hmm.
there is the actual, like we're patriots. We don't want to invade anybody's privacy. And to
Yeah.
detect faces or store biometric data would be a violation of that. So you said, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
detect guns. We're going to try to stop mass shootings, and that's it. And we spent every resource we had all the past 6 years just doing that one thing. And right now, we're in about 40 states at the moment. We're across K-12, higher ed, almost every commercial vertical,
I knew you
DoD, Fed.
when.
Yeah,
I
it's
knew
been
you
a, it's been
when.
a wild ride.
That's awesome. And I remember hearing stories of you guys doing your demos through the building. You had to warn the whole building, like there's gonna be people with like fake guns running, or even real guns, but like not like loaded guns running through the building. Don't freak out. It's just the crazy Zero Eyes guys doing a demo kind of thing, or doing a video or something like that.
It's
Because
backfired on us a couple of times. We had a demo done in DC at a restaurant where
oh
we were
no,
walking the gun outside uh, in the parking lot to the building, and there happened to be a Chuck E. Cheese next door.
oh
And of course,
no,
the police were called on us. The police wrapped us up in a big circle, guns drawn, and they're like, "Listen, it's a plastic gun. We're doing a drill." So we've had a couple of close calls with it. We got good
I'm in
over time.
DC. There's more police in DC than there's anywhere else. I mean,
That's right.
every inch is its own department.
That's right. So we pregame it now. We call the police ahead of time. We wear
They
orange
were
vests.
here, please. Oh, you
Yes.
didn't warn them ahead of time? Oh,
No.
oh no. Well, you learn from your mistakes and you came out alive. Thank
That's
God.
right. That's right.
Oh my, that's a story. Jeez. And next to a Chuck E. Cheese. Oh boy.
Horrible.
Maybe not the best location.
That's
Well,
right.
actually a good location. Just warn them first.
Bad execution. Yeah.
Hey, you live and you learn. Exactly. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, honestly.
That's right.
Exactly. So you're doing Zero Eyes. You're in, we said 45 states.
We're at 40 states.
40 states. All right, so I gave you a few more states. You'll get there. So,
Well, soon enough.
and you're doing stuff with the military. You're doing stuff with local government. You're doing stuff with schools, which all are needed there. So, what has been the best thing about being an entrepreneur in your mind? Because you have quite a history.
It's a good question. I think the opportunity to build a company with the kind of culture that we all wanted to actually work in. So I think we did a good combination of how do you get this aggressiveness and this energy and this desire to do good of a venture capital backed company with the kind of cultural elements of the SEAL teams, which is autonomous, it's flat, it's unconventional, it's giving a lot of empowerment to individuals within your company to go out there and get the job done with minimal oversight. To
Yeah.
combine those two has been a trip, and we're 160 people in that. We're still able to do that. It's still flat.
Wow.
It's awesome to see that in work. Knowing what I know now about the military and the private sector, I think we married the two pretty well into a pretty
Yeah.
cohesive whole.
I love watching the story. I mean, full disclosure, we worked together a little bit. I did I think, second website, and we did some SEO for you guys in the past. And see, I think you were 20 people at that time. I remember bringing lunch into you guys, saying, how much lunch should I bring in? And you're like, and you were like 20. I'm like, now you're 100. You said you're 160.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, and it's awesome. And it's still, when you think about it, it's still a small, mid-sized business. I mean, it's not a huge company by any
no,
stretch of
we
imagination.
don't need to be either. Like we're so efficient with scale. We're a software company. We're not a manufacturing company. So
Yeah,
we manufacture a software. I guess for those who don't know that detects guns over security cameras. So we just plug into existing security
existing.
cameras.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we just have the software that layers into your security infrastructure. So it's extremely scalable, even with our monitoring center. So we call it a ZOC, a Zero Eyes Operations Center. In the military, it's called a TOC, Tactical Operations Center. So we just pivoted the name a little bit. And we
Yeah.
have one outside Philadelphia in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, another one in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Ooh.
It's staffed 100% by former military, former law enforcement. So guys who are very comfortable identifying guns and
Yeah,
very
you need
calm under
that.
pressure. So when that detection actually comes through of a gun in a location, we have a human in the loop verify, is it a gun? If so, we dispatch it. If not, we do not dispatch it. And within
Wow.
about 3 to 5 seconds, that alert goes from the location to the end user, whether it's a school or a subway platform or a grocery store or a military base, with an image of the shooter, the location, and the time. So
And
that's it.
you're only identifying the gun. So it's like,
We're identifying the gun, the inanimate
oh,
object. So, like,
yeah.
again, we don't store biometric data. We're not streaming live feeds. We don't want to. Our algorithm just says, I think it's a gun, and sends us a still frame image, and we verify if it is or is not.
Wow. I mean, I know the story. I know your technology. I did SEO for you guys, so I had to know your technology quite well. To this day, I still go, wow.
I do too. I do too.
It's pretty freaking amazing that it's like it would almost be, I don't want to say easier, but easier to detect the whole body and the gun than a gun, and then these people have to detect. Then humans have to then double check it to say yes, that is a gun. No, it's a wallet. Because they're not big. I mean, a pistol's not that big. It's about the size of a wallet, so it could be opening their wallet, and it looks like it's more of a gun. So it's incredible.
Yeah.
So what is the scariest thing about being an entrepreneur? I mean, it's got to be it's different from being a SEAL, clearly.
Yeah. The seal of your potential loss was of life, of yourself, of your brothers, of the mission. But entrepreneurship, it's a different kind of struggle. So combat was I would say like 3% of the time it was extraordinarily intense, life or death intense. And then 97% of the time it was just calm. It was training, it was eating, it was sleeping, it was reading. It was a great balance. Like that's almost like an ancient balance, like it was before
Yeah,
the invention of
very
state.
stoic. Yeah.
And now it's this constant test, this constant strain of a Slack message at midnight,
Oh,
of a
I hate
text or a
those.
phone call or an email or something that you feel like needs to be done, and this constant agitation of I'm not doing enough and I could be doing more even though it's the weekend. That's probably the hardest part about entrepreneurship. Like it's up to you,
Wow.
and you feel like if you don't work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, what's going to happen? What if your company falls? What if all these people don't have a job? So that's a different. It's a radically different kind of pressure. It's constant.
It's just interesting to see that I think the word is dichotomy, or the difference at least between the two. Because I mean, people think SEALs are like these guys are going to harm's way. Oh my god, that's like pressure out the wazoo. When you just said like, yeah, it's pressure, like more pressure than you can know what to do with for while you're on your mission. But then it's calm, and at the reiterate, that entrepreneurship is nonstop. It's amazing because I went to this interview thinking, oh, being in the civilian world is going to be a cinch. No, it's a different kind of difficulty.
It's different. That's all. Just like you said, journalism. It's just a
Yeah,
different challenge. It's still very hard.
yeah. And you were able to, and I think you being a SEAL gave you the structure you needed to be disciplined enough to do entrepreneurship, at least correctly, for that matter. I mean, whether or not things pivot or fail, whatever, sometimes it's out of your hands, but you're able to departmentalize and kind of you have the military structure, which I think a lot of people don't have when they're entrepreneurs.
Hmm. Interesting. I think it's a constant battle to put structure into the like stereotypically unstructured entrepreneurship environment. There is no structure. So like I'm almost trying to add as much structure as I can to keep the left and right limits on sanity so that you don't work too hard, know when to turn off and draw that line. Like after 7 o'clock, not going to look at Slack again, as hard as it is. But
Oh,
like that has to be like a rule you make just for sanity, just for your team's sanity, so that you're not sending a Slack at 9:30 at night that boost their stress hormones and then make a night of terrible sleep. Things you kind of learn after 6 years of doing this in remote work, very
yeah.
technological work, constant
Because
communications.
you're hybrid, right? I mean, you're hybrid now. I mean, you're at your home office instead of in the office, but a lot of you guys, I mean, obviously the ZOC people have to be, on in the ZOC, but
Yes,
like,
we were remote before COVID, like you know that. So like
yeah,
even more so afterwards because
I remember you were taking calls outside on the porch.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you gotta get some sun, right? You gotta stay sane.
That's
Uh,
insane. Yeah.
yeah, well, we're probably out of the 160, maybe 30 or 40 are actually at the office, and then the rest are spread throughout the country.
Wow. It's kind of cool to see that. Like, look, hybrid can happen,
Yeah.
remote can happen. Like, you don't have to be in a damn office.
No, and because of that, it opens up talent pool across all 50 states. You can hire some extraordinary people who might happen to live in the backwoods of Kentucky. They don't have to move, and that's great for everybody involved.
Yeah, as long as they have a high-speed data connection, which guess what? You can get in Kentucky now.
That's right.
Imagine that.
That's
But I
right.
mean, you can get as long as you can get a high-speed internet connection, and now you can even do it, 5G over, T-Mobile. Not a sponsor, not a sponsor, but seriously, you can do things wirelessly and not have to wire the ground up for sound. So that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
So, all right, here's a big question of the podcast. What is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
That's a good one.
I love that
You
question.
use the word stoic, so I'm going to use a stoic lesson here, which is know what's under your control and what's not under your control. If you constantly stress about the things you cannot control, is this contract going to go through? Is the economic environment going to be bad when you're doing a fundraise?
Mhm.
Um, you're going to lose your mind. You have to realize that those things are outside of your control. Let it go and just accept what comes. And if it's inside of your control, don't stress about it. Do something about it. It's within your
Mhm.
power. Make the change you want to see. And if you keep that, I try to keep that in my head every second of every day. Obviously, I'm human. I slip all the time. But the moments I do have that fresh, the process is way more enjoyable than stressful.
Yeah, I love that. And that was probably the best out of 214 episodes of this podcast. That's probably one of the best answers to that question.
All
I'm
right. Thank you.
sick of when people say my phone.
The
And some
phone.
a lot of people say my phone. And I can't live without my phone. And I'm like, okay, more please. You can go a little more woo woo on this, please. I want it meant to be deep. But yeah, I'm like, whatever. So
I
yeah,
do whatever I can to get away from my phone. So I'll push back on that one.
there you go. That's awesome. So Sam, people can find you guys over at zeroeyes.com. And they can find you. I mean, you're publishing on LinkedIn now. I'm very happy to see that you're getting active on there.
Mm.
So we'll have that in the show notes as well. And thank you for being on, my bud.
Really appreciate it, Seth. Good to see you again. Glad everything's going well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see everyone next week. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.